Welcome to tonight's edition of Under the Bleachers. We are reacting to waivers. The waivers are going to open up in the Sleeper League tonight, so we are reacting to that. William, what would you like to inform our audience about?
Oh, well, it was last night, but like 3:30 in the morning or whatever, it went through. No, I just want to talk about some of the rookies that were on the board, and reactions to things like the Miami Dolphins and trading Jonnu Smith, and what kind of that created. I mean, he got snapped up in these leagues like quick. I saw in a couple of them. All of a sudden, I saw that, and I hadn't even heard the news yet. With my phone in my hand. But
yeah, because Waller got picked up by Miami after they traded Jonnu Smith to Pittsburgh. So, and I don't know where Jonnu Smith fits in that offense with Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. Is that the guy? Is that Darnell?
Yeah, Darnell, yeah.
Washington, former Georgia tight end.
Yeah.
So, okay,
it's going to be interesting.
Where he fits in that offense.
Yeah, I know they run a lot of two tight end sets, so they may be able to utilize them. But I mean, it was an interesting move for sure.
I think that from a fantasy lens, Darnell Washington is now even more irrelevant than he already was. In real life, he's a great blocking tight end. He's essentially a sixth offensive lineman.
He's huge.
For a long time. He's huge. He's got the size. He could be a red zone threat, but I've always faded him. He's always been a fade for me. Freiermuth is a player that's going to be interesting. I think that Aaron Rodgers does target tight ends.
Right.
And Freiermuth had gained some momentum, but the history with Jonnu Smith and Arthur Smith can't be ignored. I mean, back when everyone had high hopes for Kyle Pitts, Arthur Smith was calling plays to Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, so I mean, it looks like they're making moves for a reason, for sure.
I think it'll be interesting to see how the snap share pans out between Arthur Smith. Between Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. There's definitely some different perspectives. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
I mean, Freiermuth, I think he's like on an extension right now, right? So he's set.
That's right.
Yeah, he's setting their plans. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, Jonnu is he's a late bloomer, from the aspect of like really catching on as far as being utilized like he was last year, so also with Atlanta. So it's tough to, I don't know how they can utilize them the same way with Freiermuth there, unless they're gonna bring Freiermuth more in and let Jonnu kind of run those, short area, pieces. Like that's the only thing I can think that, what their thought process is,
Yeah.
Well, that's his specialty, the short underneath routes.
Yeah.
Well, the whole reason Smith got dealt was because Jalen Ramsey got traded to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh sent Minkah Fitzpatrick, who demanded a trade from the Dolphins back in 2019, back to the Dolphins, the team that drafted him.
Yeah. You think it was just like more of a filler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, you guys stole my words. I was sitting there thinking about this whole tight end thing, and I was never a fan of Jonnu Smith. But, Darnell Washington, I had him rated as a second-round tight end. Daniel Kelly, my editor at the time, he had a first-round grade all over him, thinking that he's going to be, something in the league. But, the NFL is just so much faster than college. And, a 270-pound tight end, 6'6", whatever he is, huge dude.
Huge.
Huge. And he could absolutely. I think back to that evaluation that I wrote, and watching, Stetson Bennett and his noodle arm toss balls to Darnell, and Darnell I mean, he could. He's so much of an athlete. He could absolutely leapfrog a guy without a problem. I mean, just jump right over him like some of these running backs. But when it comes to the NFL, it's just so much faster, and that's when you get into these flex tight ends or whatever you want to call them, slot tight ends. That feed underneath, underneath the zone defenses and everything else, and that's definitely Jonnu Smith. But
Right.
like I said, I've just never really been a fan of him, and I was kind of wondering what was going to happen in Miami. I'm also wondering what's going to happen with Michael Mayer, because I also did an evaluation on him, and I had him ranked just below Dalton Kincaid the year they were
Yeah.
drafted.
It's funny. Before they picked up Darren Waller and surprised everyone, I was actually projecting Philly to trade Goddard to Miami, and Michael Mayer has been tied to Philly for several months now, so it would only make sense.
Right.
But in comes Waller, and I guess they're
Yeah, I mean, and Vegas said pretty much that they're not moving him.
With Michael's Eagles here, that's just stacking a team that's already stacked. That's just
Already stacked, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, man.
I mean, I would love like when they were talking about like just the talks with Mayer. Like I know the high grades you had last year. I think I grabbed him in a couple before you sniped him specifically for that reason. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see him in Philly to kind of take over that Goddard role as he kind of fades to back. So it'd be interesting to see how that kind of pans out.
They sent all the Chiefs three-peat Super Bowl gear to Mongolia, so the Mongolians got the Chiefs Super Bowl memorabilia.
Oh man,
the one that says three-peat.
Was it Mongolia this year? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I read something about it on the internet yesterday. I thought that was pretty funny.
But no, I mean, that's what's happening in the league, and there are so many tight ends coming out. That's why I'm going into this, because nobody pays attention to them. They do well, in Greg Olson's words. They do everything that a wide receiver has to do, and then they do everything that a left tackle has to do, and they get paid half as much. And like I said, there's so many of them coming out. This last one, Max Clare. I mean, he's not going to be out until like 2 years from now. But dude is an absolute ghost, and I'd just like to stop there, and let somebody else talk.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you, William, just on Arroyo, because I know you probably done some heads up on him. Like I know they were saying, like, as far as his knee issues and things like that, like he's kind of past that piece. But like I know he was hot on the waiver wire, just last night. So like what was your like pre-draft analysis and everything on him prior to like assuming knee injury is he's past it.
Yeah, and coming out of Miami, I mean, they hadn't done a whole lot lately. I mean, even with Cam Ward at quarterback, that's kind of the evaluation I had on him. I hadn't done a full evaluation on Elijah Arroyo, but I mean, just seeing pieces of him and seeing Cam Ward, slingshot those passes to him. I mean, he's a good player, and I think he's going to take a few years to develop. Usually the learning curve, even though it's speeded up a little bit lately, and that's just because of the simple ass offenses that they have these days. But,
they don't have much in front of them either.
Yeah, but then he also has Noah Fant, out there in Seattle with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold. I mean, he is a good quarterback. I'm not sure if he can really win championship or not, but he's going to do some. They signed him for what, like 3 years, I think.
Right.
And they drafted Jalen Milroe behind him, and Jalen Milroe is was my QB1 this last draft, and it was just because of the potential. And I mean, his legs were just, and the deep shots that he would take, early. But
Yeah.
pairing him with someone like Arroyo, I can see it really, really helping if he can learn that the guy is going to help him. I was just talking about Max Clare, and Max Clare, his quarterback, didn't trust him. Ryan Brown, I think it is. This guy is he just looks like a selfish guy. I mean, the tight end's
Right.
10 yards in front of him, running right there, and he's looking deep for someone else or looking to run. And it's like, come on, man. It's like, what are you acting out of vendetta against this guy?
Gotcha.
But no, I mean, if Milroe can learn to use him, I mean, he's obviously the closest thing that Seattle has had to, a quarterback future in a minute.
Yeah, I'm curious on the on Darnold's contract. Was it a 1 year or was it?
It's a 3-year, but there's voidable.
Yeah, they can get out after one, right? So it's like if he doesn't do well, what do you think? You think like Milroe, like it's going to take a lot, right, to get him in there? But I mean, like, do you think it could be a one and done situation?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, last time it was up in when Pete Carroll was there, and it was Russell Wilson. They drafted Russell Wilson. They were talking about, because they signed before that dude from Green Bay or whatever.
Matt Flynn.
There you go. And that they put Wilson in, and then all of a sudden, they talked about him being the quarterback of the future. And it's like, and he was drafted in the third round.
Third round, yeah.
So it can definitely be a one and done. Milroe made a mistake. I think he gauged the quarterback class, on where he would be drafted. Next year, there's supposed to be a few quarterbacks, obviously, or a few quarterbacks eligible, we'll say. And I think, he jumped into this one, but another year in college of learning the snaps, learning the defense, in Kalen Bauer's system, I mean, I saw that so much greater than it was this last year. But like I said, I just don't think that Russell Wilson was ready. So maybe he needs a year, whatever it is, but I definitely see him coming in and doing something, when he gets his shot. And who knows?
I do think the Seahawks are going to be the worst team in the NFC West this year, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to be bad enough to where they throw Jalen Milroe into the fire this year.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening
either. There's hearsay that they'll be creating some packages for Milroe. So it's possible that he'll make a guest appearance in some games or come in certain game situations. I don't think we'll see a lot of them. I think that they've already, established that Darnold is the starter.
Right, for sure.
I think that Darnold is a good QB to have in fantasy football as a third QB in a super flex for that matter. Even if he doesn't end up playing for Seattle next year, I think that he's got the talent to be a starter in the league. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not Joe Burrow.
Somebody will give him another shot, either way. But in my estimation, it would be interesting though if like Milroe in the preseason just balls out, and like shows them a different dynamic, and then we're looking at week 8, they're 2-6. Like things, just things could just take a turn depending on, like that kind of stuff. It'd be interesting to see how we play, like how preseason goes,
Certainly a wide range of outcomes, that's for sure.
Yeah, because he's like he's flashing, as well. So that's like you start getting into the marketing and the the fans and what the city wants, and then it turns into something different.
Everyone's very excited to see Milroe, that's for sure. Being in Denver, I remember the whole Tebow thing, or even before Tebow, when Jay Cutler came in after Jake Plummer was a successful quarterback here, a Pro Bowl
Right.
the year before. And, that was controversial at the time. And then the Tebow experience was just ridiculous. I was never a big Tebow guy. In fact, I was very much not a Tebow guy.
Gotcha.
But you can't deny the excitement and, the athleticism that Milroe brings to the table is definitely something we all want to see how it translates to the NFL.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm trying to get tickets right now for offset of that, the Browns game, that the Panthers, because I'm in Carolina, but the Panthers, their first game is the Browns. It'd be very interesting to see Dylan Gabriel and Shador up close and personal and kind of see how they're running that offense.
I don't think you'll be seeing Dylan Gabriel up close and personal unless you're right by the bench.
This is a preseason game, correct? Preseason opener?
Yeah, preseason opener. Yeah, preseason opener. Yeah. It's gonna be it's gonna be interesting.
Let's talk about
Cleveland. I don't think Flacco's playing. He's probably sitting.
I think Flacco has got to be the one that gets cut. They've got too much invested
You
in
think?
guys. I mean, in one sense, he's got the experience, not only the NFL experience, but the experience with the Browns, with the team, with the staff. So, I mean, I don't discount that at all. But he's 40. He's he's serviceable at best. We know what he is. Whereas, I can't remember what they traded for Kenny Pickett. Wasn't it like a fourth or something?
It may have been something like that. I'm an Eagles fan. I didn't grab the pick that we got. I remember it was a decent one though, because we were pretty happy about it.
Well, I mean, how could you not be? But
right.
It was a fifth round pick. It was a 2020
fifth round.
It was a 2025 fifth round pick. So the Eagles.
I'll take it. We have a ton next year.
184 in this year's draft. The Eagles had 164 from the Browns and DTR.
Yeah, I think we got like four. Fifths.
Yeah, but you got a fifth from the Browns at 164 in this draft, and the Eagles ended up trading that pick to the Steelers, who moved up for Yaya Black, and I think the Eagles. The Eagles originally traded this pick to the Chiefs when they moved up to 31 in the first round, and then the Chiefs traded the pick to the Steelers.
A lot of trading.
Yeah.
So my point is that if you are the Browns and you've given up draft capital to acquire Kenny Pickett, who may not be a big name per se. They gave up less. May not be an exciting name, but he's got
the Steelers a third for Pickett, if you remember. So that's still less than the Eagles gave up. Just
yeah.
About him skipping along.
It's funny because if you're the Browns, the bottom line is that Kenny Pickett at least has youth on his side as opposed to Joe Flacco. Dylan Gabriel was drafted to be a backup. He was never drafted to be in consideration for the starting position. But you still have a third round pick invested in him. So I don't see them cutting him or even putting him on their practice squad. That's a possibility though. But I feel like if you put Gabriel on the practice squad, then you're risking another team swooping him up, perhaps. And then I think Shador and Kenny Pickett is my prediction will be the one of those two will be the week one starter. Originally, it was looking like Flacco would probably start for 5 games, and then we would see, presumably we would see Shador take over. But at this point, I'm not convinced that it's Flacco. They've got too many QBs on their roster. Deshaun Watson's still there, but I don't think he's going to play another down for the Browns. I don't think that they have, any benefit in cutting him. But we'll see. I don't know who. I don't see them going into the season with 5 quarterbacks.
No. what's going on in Cleveland. You know, they drafted, I believe, Dylan Gabriel, like you said, to be a backup, but I don't think they wanted to draft another quarterback until next year, until they saw Shedeur sliding, you know, and Jimmy Haslam.
Joey keeps saying the Browns were excited to draft Shedeur Sanders, but I don't agree with him. I think it was an owner move, not the decision by the GM and the head coach. But we will not know until the whole saga plays out.
Yeah, you know, and putting, you know, people in the stands and selling jerseys is more important to some of these teams, I feel, you know, than winning a championship. Otherwise, you know, they would do what they do. You know, and it's interesting as to what would happen with, you know, Shedeur and where he's going to end up, because he has definitely been, you know, somewhat humbled now. Well, until afterwards, you know, he gets a speeding ticket and then misses court over the speeding ticket. There's a warrant, you know, and then he, you know, gets arrested or, you know, whatever happened. It's a mess with what's going on, you know, and I feel that the kid just has to get away from his dad to succeed, you know. I mean, that's who was running his life. It wasn't even, you know, like a helicopter parent. It was I can't even remember what I thought of the other day was a problem there. But, you know, it's just Cleveland in general. You know, I mean, they do it all the time. There's teams that do it all the time. Washington was doing it, you know, and I mean, Carolina, they're quarterback killers. Jets, you know, they haven't had a quarterback since Namath, and he threw more interceptions than touchdowns, you know, and Chad Pennington was good. Rex Ryan had a good defense with them, but I mean, what can we do with Shedeur in the league? You know, I feel he was literally having to go back and section by section read it from the defense and then think about from, you know, the cornerback's point of view what was going on, and peeling back those layers and trying to figure out what coverage to go up against. And then he was just simply taking sacks, you know, because if he threw an interception or threw it out of bounds, that goes against his stats. You know, he was almost like padding his stats with it, and I don't know, man. I just don't know what he can do in this league, and
he's a tough one to evaluate. And the offensive line was so bad that, yeah, I can tell you, having watched enough of Russell Wilson taking sacks, it's painful to watch. However, I think the Browns definitely have a capable offensive line, and you know, with a great, the Browns do have a great surrounding cast as well. Lots of young talent there. Yeah, I like Stefanski. I think he's a good coach. I think that there's definitely a range of outcomes where Shedeur is successful behind an adequate offensive line and with good play calling. It wouldn't surprise me.
You know, I literally had a 5th round grade on him. I was like,
really?
I didn't think they would do it. You know, I really didn't think that's where they put him. That's where his skill level put him. And, you know,
that's very low. That's I understand not everybody had a 1st round grade on him, but 5th round, that was your pre-draft analysis. I understand he takes a lot of sacks. He holds on to the ball too long. He kind of hyper targets, you know, 1 or 2 receivers, but I feel like he's got to be the most accurate quarterback coming out of this class.
He's got a golden arm. I will not dispute that. And I mean, he throws dots, like absolute dots. It comes down to like precision. And like I said, he's just got to shed that symbol of his father, you know. And I mean, just get out and be who he is as an adult. You know, I saw, you know, so many kids do that growing up. They would get away from their parents finally, and, you know, a strict, you know, maybe religious household, and they would just freak out when they got out from under that grasp, and I feel he can be a good quarterback, but it's a question of if he can put, or if he can handle all of what is happening right now.
Well, yeah, there's always going to be that question, and that's all. The question of how can they handle themselves in their new situation is always a question, and it's only amplified when your father is Deion Sanders. So there's definitely a lot of off the field questions surrounding him. But bottom line, and the Browns obviously will take chances with players that have off the field issues. But if the talent is there, they'll find a way. And I feel like I said, I feel like Shador is absolutely the most accurate passer of the QBs coming out this year.
I can definitely agree with that. Michael was popping.
Yeah, he was my QB2 behind Cam Ward, but I think his ceiling's high, but his floor is also kind of low. So,
yeah, this year was a little bit different.
I would actually put Shador as a high floor, low ceiling guy, because you're not going to get. I mean, at least from a fantasy perspective, with Cam Ward, you have the benefit of what he can do with his legs. He's a much better runner. Shador will pick up some first downs or what have you, but he's not really known for being a huge running quarterback.
very interesting.
But yeah, I'm not as big on Cam Ward as some people are. I actually prefer Milroe if I'm going to go for a quarterback to pick up points with their legs. Obviously, Milroe is probably not going to start this year, but that's, just excluding that situation, I would prefer him.
Yeah, and Cam Ward is definitely one to explain. I mean, I think he can be a Jalen Hurts type quarterback. I wish Michael was back because then I could get him talking now. But I think that the way what I questioned in my evaluation was the fact of what he could do to actually win a game when it mattered. And I had never really started putting that into my evaluations until this year, like I said, with Milroe and everything else. But Cam Ward is a good quarterback. I'm just not sure how far he can go. He was outdueled by Jay Kaner. That was 2 years ago in the LA Bowl. And it was just that he was outclassed that game. I mean, they were beaten thoroughly. But then Cam Ward came to Miami. And as good as he is, I said that I had a late second round grade on him. I had him, Quinn Ewers, and Kyle McCord kind of almost all at the same spot. I graded almost identical for their different things, but overall it was great. They had almost the identical grades, and I didn't really know what to do with that. I usually have the big three that I talk about, whether that big three is the quarterback in the class or whether that big three is whatever, the different prospects. And I had to throw the extra one in there because it was so close that I couldn't really. Kyle McCord was absolutely throwing balls all over, and that's another one. Like I said, he ended up going to the Eagles in the 6th round. But he had metrics on the ball and metrics overall. He scored one of the highest S2 scores ever at the what was it, the Shrine Bowl. He was there with what's his name? Anyway, that one quarterback, Josh McCown, missed a quarterback touch right now. He handles a bunch of these. But that's how I felt about the quarterbacks in this class, and I haven't started on the next ones yet. I've been working on this tight end deal that I got.
I know you're pretty high on Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, really high, and that just goes along with the fact that what is going on in Miami, and if McDaniel isn't on the hot seat or fired by half the season, if Quinn Ewers gets on the field, it's going to be hard for him to take off. Because McDaniel is going to see that arm. He's got all those fast receivers down there. Waddle, and it's just one of those things. I mean, I see him as an NFL quarterback, and he should have been drafted a lot higher than that. It's kind of funny what happened this year. You all right over there, Chris?
Yeah. Microphone's just fumbling, rumbling, stumbling, fumbling, as Berman would say. But yeah, I'm all right. I think this class will be harder to evaluate 2026 because right now I've got a 92 potential on Nussmeier, Aller, and Klubnik, and I have Arch Manning in the 2027 draft at the moment, but I've got the same potential grade on all of the top 3 quarterbacks on my board. So that makes it much harder because you're basically, if you've got the same potential grade on 3 different quarterbacks, you basically have to go by the production and the floor if your ceiling grade for all 3 quarterbacks is equal. And that's very frustrating.
I can definitely understand that. I mean,
this is the first time that happened where I've had 3 different quarterbacks and they're all graded equally in terms of ceiling.
I love Nussmeier.
Yeah, I have Nussmeier at 1 for when I did the original 26 rankings. I had Arch Manning at 1, Nussmeier at 2, Klubnik at 3, and Aller at 4. There's a lot of people that like Aller, but I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen that decisiveness, that it factor. I saw some it factor from Klubnik when Clemson played in the playoff. Even though he lost to Texas, I saw some of that, and I saw some of that against SMU in the ACC championship. So I haven't seen that from Aller yet. Maybe that's because Penn State ran a run-heavy offense, and Aller didn't really have to do as much with the backfield he had with Singleton.
I saw a really tough quarterback playing when I saw Drew Aller. And, I was actually
I like
surprised.
Aller too, but I like Klubnik a little bit better.
Klubnik was one that kind of stuck with me because I glanced at him a couple of years ago. He's been in college for a few. Been starting for a few.
Because if you watch him in the ACC title and in the first college football playoff game, you're thinking, wow, this is the guy. But if you watched him in the opener against Georgia, he sucked in the opener against Georgia. But he's going to play Nussmeier in the season opener in Death Valley this year. So that's going to be a big game for both QBs. And Arch Manning is going to go to Ohio State, play the Buckeyes at the Horseshoe. So those are both big games.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what's coming up definitely has some things to look at. It's definitely going to be interesting. Hey, where were you, man? I was talking about Kyle McCord. I was
there. I heard you. I just my video was taking a second here. I had some audio video issues, so apologies.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
You know anything about some of these quarterbacks coming out, Michael?
No, I was trying to learn from you guys right there. Those top 3 that Chris was referencing. That's why I was wondering, just in general, that was the top 3 that you're saying all kind of grayed out and like ceiling wise.
If Arch Manning just dominates, wins the Heisman, he could enter this draft, but he's already came out and said he doesn't want to play for the Jets or the Browns.
Right.
So if
that makes sense.
Saints or Colts get the top pick, I could see him declaring if he dominates. But if they don't, then I think he'll probably go
Yeah.
back to college. Just hunch.
Right. Yeah. I mean, his brother did the same thing, right? So yeah, like from the Manning crest, where does Arch stand? Would you say?
Because I think Arch is QB1 in 27 or 28, but this year he would have to dominate, and the team picking at the top of the draft would have to be a team he'd want to go play for if he were to declare this year. I don't understand why a bunch of mocks have Arch Manning in this year's draft right now, because he's already made that clear, abundantly clear, so we'll see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
It's a great thing for him to stick around. It's kind of like Milrow, because he only got in a few times last year with Quinn Ewers, being hurt, and I think, like I said, a Manning doing Manning things. Surprise, surprise, And I mean, people are going to say, well, what's the difference between that and Dion? And it's like Dion is like trying to control the teams like so much. I mean, they're just going to whisper in Arch's ear, say, do this or do that. I mean, whoever they think. I mean, that was like Cam Newton coming out. Because Andrew Luck said he didn't want to play for the Panthers, and yeah, it was like, you're going to stay another year in college. Yeah, okay. Well, however it worked out for him, I mean, I'm not sure how much they wanted to hear about college football. I mean, we were supposedly talking fantasy, but and we're about getting to that time where we need to go. You guys got any last things to say?
No, I'm just looking
I don't
forward
have
to
anything right now,
the season.
but
Yeah.
I promise you, I've already got some notes in the 2026 draft prospects pulled up. I will take a deeper look at those notes after the MLB draft ends on July 13th, which is that is the Sunday. That's not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday. That's when the MLB draft takes place. I know I got to update the MLB mock. I haven't updated it since February, but I'm still working on those NHL draft grades. So, yeah, I'm on. I think I'm on like I've got the first 5 rounds of the news ticker set up, but I think I'm on pick 108. So I'm just I just finished the write up for 108, so I've got 20 more to go for round 4. Hopefully I have them all done before Saturday morning show, but I think 108 is pretty good progress for tonight. All right, William, what do you want to talk about for Under the Bleachers, and then we'll sign off.
Well, Under the Bleachers, we got a show every Wednesday night. You guys probably know this by now, anybody watching on Draft Utopia, but or Tuesday or Wednesday. We've got Brian Dispel coming back pretty soon. She's been off because of football season. They're trying to get in and win a championship right now, the Atlanta Rage. But yeah, we'll be back here with more owners. Michael, Boom. You guys, thanks for joining us. You got anything, Michael?
No, I'm just excited to talk fantasy and football, man. Just the seasons upon us. Just I'm just excited, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have some reels coming up and that kind of stuff. Some one-on-one stuff with some of the owners. Boom. Anything from you, man?
I'll wait till next time. I know we're trying to sign off, but I can talk fantasy football for hours.
Oh, okay. Maybe, yeah. We'll definitely last longer next time. Thank you guys for joining us. Christopher, it's on you, bud.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, William.
Thank you.
Later, guys.
Later.